Have you ever seen two almost identical events produce such wildly different outcomes that it leaves everyone stunned? That's exactly what happened when two WNBA preseason matchups were announced, both featuring the Brazilian national team, both promoted as major homecomings for two of the league's most talked about rookies, and both scheduled in front of each player's old college fan base. Yet, while one set of tickets vanished in mere minutes, sending prices on the secondary market into the stratosphere, the other sat collecting dust at rock-bottom prices. This is the story of a ticket frenzy versus an empty seats embarrassment, and it reveals more than anyone expected about who really moves the needle in women's basketball. Demand was so enormous for Caitlin Clark's exhibition game that the general public never got a fair shot at buying tickets. The University of Iowa opened up sales to its women's basketball season ticket holders and top donors at 9 in the morning. By 9:36, the entire arena, over 15,000 seats, was gone. Suddenly, websites crashed under the pressure of frantic fans desperate to snag a seat. Some reported seeing server errors the moment they tried to check out. Others sat stunned as their purchase screens froze, returning to find every ticket claimed. The social media outcry was intense, but it also sparked an even more surprising trend. Resale prices soared beyond anyone's wildest predictions. Within hours, nosebleeds were going for over $100, lower bowl seats climbed into the thousands, and a few ultra-premium listings hit 5 figures. That might sound unthinkable, 5 figures for an exhibition game, but it's all happening in real time, powered by what many now call the Caitlin Clark effect. Mention her name and watch how quickly basketball fans pay attention. She tore through college record books, obliterated attendance and viewing thresholds, and made herself a household name in the process. One might assume an event like this would be a decent draw, but no one expected the entire place to sell out in 30-some minutes before most of Iowa's general public even rubbed the sleep out of their eyes. It was like a rock concert. Once the doors opened, the seats vanished instantly. On the other side of this equation, there's Angel Reese. She had an equally hyped storyline, complete with a similar homecoming plan. The Chicago Sky scheduled the exact same Brazilian opponent, the exact same preseason concept, during the exact same week, hoping to recreate the magic at Louisiana State University. If Clark could command mind-blowing demand, surely the newly minted star from LSU could do the same, right? Well, days passed, then more days. And those seats, priced at just $29, remained readily available. It wasn't merely that the venue failed to sell out. Vast sections stayed open, forcing many to wonder whether LSU fans even knew or cared that a game was happening. Sports message boards exploded with side-by-side comparisons. One screenshot showed the Iowa game with a bright, sold-out banner. Next to it was an LSU ticketing page revealing ample inventory at bargain bin rates. People began mocking the discrepancy, pointing to how one player's brand consistently translates into real revenue while the other's does not. Despite big social media followings and frequent mainstream coverage, Reese's hometown return wasn't generating anything close to Clark's phenomenon. Some insisted it was simply location or scheduling that caused the difference. Others insisted it was a reflection of deeper truths about star power and actual market pull. It's easy to forget that both players arrived in the WNBA with enormous fanfare. Clark was known for her jaw-dropping range and record-setting triple-doubles, while Reese captured headlines for a brash personality and major claims about being just as big a draw. Neither is short on talent or on-stage presence, so seeing these results spelled out so starkly challenges the narrative that all hype is created equal. Major sports networks love building up rivalries, especially in women's basketball, which is searching for unstoppable forces to carry the league forward. The problem is, a rivalry isn't truly a rivalry if one side commands massive ticket sales and the other struggles to fill seats priced little more than a fast food meal. The conversation grows more interesting when you look at the resale market. For Clark's game, the secondary sites practically lit on fire with activity. People asked outrageous sums, sometimes up to 5 digits, for prime seats near the court. A few listings even went into the $40,000 range, or so the rumor mill claimed. Scalpers saw the hype building and pounced, hoping to profit off fans' desire to witness Clark's triumphant return. And guess what? Some of those tickets were actually selling. Within a matter of hours, lower-tier seats were going at hundreds of dollars above face value. Meanwhile, for Reese's game, you could easily find tickets for under $50, sometimes even under $30, with zero competition or urgency from prospective buyers. From an economic standpoint, it's a stark illustration that popularity can't be conjured out of thin air. Fans vote with their wallets. When they see a player they believe can change the game, they'll pay top dollar to witness history in person. The Iowa crowd had already watched Clark set their college arena on fire for multiple seasons. They'd seen her drop triple-doubles. They'd seen her carry the team further than anyone ever expected. She turned each home game into a spectacle, complete with signage, lines of fans waiting for autographs, and massive national TV attention. Even with all that, few expected the mania for a preseason exhibition to reach these insane levels. But it did, revealing that the adoration hasn't faded since her move to the pros. Meanwhile, Angel Reese faced a different narrative. She drew national headlines for her ring-pointing celebrations in the NCAA championship game, which many believed overshadowed her team's accomplishment. Instead of the focus staying on LSU's first-ever national title, the conversation turned to how Reese taunted her opponents, and how she set herself up as a foil to Clark. It was the type of storyline that fuels online arguments, talk show debates, and all kinds of social media banter. But as the dust settled, the real question became, did that hype translate into tangible metrics, like sold-out seats? So far, the answer appears to be no. While Reese is undeniably talented, the hush around her preseason homecoming suggests that fans aren't scrambling to see her in person, at least not to the same degree as Clark. And there's no sugarcoating it. When your direct competitor across the country sells out 15,000 seats in just over half an hour, leaving fans begging for extras, and you struggle to move cheap tickets in your own backyard, the optics are brutal. For a sports league chasing mainstream relevance, this is an important case study in how star power genuinely manifests. Beyond the immediate ticket fiasco, WNBA insiders are analyzing what this might mean for the league's broader future. For years, the WNBA has longed for a transcendent star to shake up the league's financials the way Michael Jordan once did for the NBA. They've had iconic legends, to be sure, but they haven't yet seen a single player cause a dramatic revolution in ticket pricing and brand partnerships across the board. Now, with Clark's arrival, it's starting to look like the league has that game-changing figure. Deals for sponsorship, media rights, and merchandise sales are skyrocketing, and the fervor isn't just limited to Iowa. Every arena she visits sees a bump in attendance as fans come to watch her improbable step-back jumpers and fearless drives. Broadcasters have begun featuring her heavily in promotional materials, and online highlights regularly go viral within hours. Angel Reese, on the other hand, has struggled to command the same across-the-board adoration. Yes, she pulled in multiple name-image-likeness deals while still in college, and she became a household name among younger fans on social media. But the conversion from hype to actual ticket sales hasn't panned out. Part of this might be that her game style doesn't typically produce the highlight reels Clark's does. Another part might be that many fans see her outspoken attitude as overshadowing her consistent performance. Or perhaps it's just a matter of timing, with fans in Iowa starved for more of Clark's show, whereas LSU supporters haven't fully awakened to the preseason hype. Whatever the cause, the difference in ticket movement is undeniable. Sports journalists have pointed to yet another angle. Sometimes a region just has a more fervent basketball culture. Iowa's turnout for women's basketball skyrocketed over the past few seasons, fueled by the possibility of seeing the next big star break records live. Louisiana, for all its sports passion, might have more options to distract fans, from LSU football to the New Orleans Saints. Yet that explanation only goes so far. Even the least basketball-crazed markets have historically rallied around superstars. We've all seen how certain transcendent talents, think Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, or Steph Curry, draw traveling crowds wherever they play. That's what's starting to happen with Clark, while Reese's star power, for now, hasn't ignited to the same extent. Meanwhile, fans wasted no time in turning this into an internet spectacle. Memes showed two images, one with "sold out in 36 minutes" plastered in bold letters, and another displaying huge chunks of empty purple seats available. Some joked that they could buy enough seats for a whole family to see Reese for cheaper than a single seat in the nosebleeds for Clark's game. Others pointed out that Reese once declared people watch women's basketball for her too, an assertion that rings hollow when you can still grab prime seats in her own backyard at a fraction of the cost. A few tried to defend her by arguing that a single game isn't enough data to measure stardom, but the blowback was immediate. We're talking identical circumstances. Same league, same week, same opponent, critics said. How much more direct can you get? In the background, you can imagine league executives wrestling with how to handle this narrative. On one hand, having a breakout star in Caitlin Clark is a dream scenario. A once-in-a-generation player who sells out venues and becomes must-watch TV. On the other hand, the league wanted to build multiple new faces, not just one. They invested marketing resources into Angel Reese, placed her front and center in certain campaigns, and hoped the rivalry would lift the league as a whole. Instead, this ticket drama reveals a glaring divide. Rivalries in sports thrive when two equally matched forces generate mutual excitement. But if fans only flock to see one side, then all the marketing in the world won't fix the imbalance. For casual observers, it might all seem trivial. After all, does it really matter that one exhibition game sold out and another didn't? But consider the broader implications. Sports leagues live or die based on revenue. Ticket sales, sponsorship deals, merchandise, and broadcasting contracts. If a single player can attract tens of thousands of fans who are willing to pay playoff-level prices for a preseason match, that player's value to the league is immeasurable. It means bigger TV deals, a healthier salary structure, and more robust coverage from mainstream networks. Conversely, if a rival star can't generate even a fraction of that excitement, it calls into question the marketing narrative that multiple new superstars are fueling the league's rapid growth. Perhaps it's just one and everyone else is along for the ride. And what about the fans who point to the overshadowing effect of controversies? Reese has often leaned into that sense of drama, from hand gestures on the court to strong statements during interviews. She rarely holds back, making her a magnet for online discussions that either praise or criticize her every move. For a while, many believed that polarizing persona would translate into high viewership. After all, plenty of male athletes throughout history have turned showmanship into huge brand power. But the test is always whether fans will pay actual money, and in large numbers, to watch you play. So far, that hasn't materialized for Reese the way it has for Clark. So, where does that leave us? Perhaps with a new perspective on what it takes to become the face of a league. It's not just about talent, nor is it solely about personality or media presence. It's a rarer combination that transforms a promising player into a phenomenon, a catalyst who can turn curiosity into sold-out seats. Caitlin Clark appears to have discovered that alchemy, while Angel Reese is still searching for the right ingredients. For now, the scoreboard of public demand is lopsided, and the world is watching to see if that gap narrows or widens in the months and years ahead. The tension of that possibility might be enough to keep fans tuned in, hoping for an epic showdown that redefines the WNBA and maybe women's sports at large. Until then, the story remains clear. When one side sells out in a record time and the other can't move discounted tickets, the cold numbers speak volumes. And it's those numbers, not just headlines or tweets, that decide who truly shapes the future of the game. In the end, this story serves as a cautionary tale about counting hype before it's verified in ticket revenue. Social media can make a player look unstoppable. Mainstream headlines can tout rivalries, and talk shows can debate who's bigger. But it's that moment when the doors open for ticket sales and fans either click purchase or close their browsers that reveals the unfiltered truth. This preseason, Iowa and LSU opened their doors under nearly identical circumstances. In one place, the seats vanished in under an hour, never even making it to general sale. In another, entire sections remained, with prices so low they felt insulting to some. If nothing else, it's a fascinating snapshot of how star power truly operates in women's sports, and why Caitlin Clark stands alone right now, carrying an entire league's hopes on her shoulders. Whether Angel Reese can change her fate remains an open question. Her supporters insist that once she finds her stride, the seats will fill. Others roll their eyes, citing how Caitlin Clark didn't need any such adjustment period. She came out of college a proven draw and continued that trajectory from day one as a pro. If Reese wants to catch up, she'll need to deliver something truly irresistible on the court. moments that blow people's minds the way Clark's does. Because in sports, it isn't enough to just be good. You need to be magnetic. As the WNBA's new season gathers momentum, every team hopes to ride the wave of increasing interest in women's hoops. Attendance, TV ratings, and sponsorship deals are all on the rise compared to a decade ago. But these ticket fiascos, contrasting so starkly, remind us that not all hype is created equal. Some players become must-see attractions, others remain question marks until proven otherwise. For fans who've been cheering on women's basketball for years, this might feel like vindication. Finally, a player who can fill arenas. For new fans, it's confirmation that sometimes you do need that one star to shine brighter than everyone else. It's also possible that the LSU crowd is simply more reserved about exhibitions. And once the regular season hits, Reese might enjoy a better turnout. Yet that reasoning doesn't soften the blow of watching thousands of fans in Iowa eagerly shell out money the moment tickets became available. A strong preseason showing is typically a sign of bigger things to come during the actual season. If Reese can't generate buzz in a low-stakes scenario, some wonder if she'll do any better when it really counts. Admittedly, winning cures a lot of problems in sports, so maybe the Chicago Sky need to start racking up victories, with Reese taking a starring role before fans will part with their dollars. Still, that theory doesn't quite line up with Clark's reality, where fans were queuing up to watch a simple exhibition, no matter the outcome of the game. The real question becomes what happens next. Does Angel Reese find a way to reignite the fan base, perhaps through a mid-season surge or a thrilling rivalry matchup with Clark? Do her supporters take this preseason flop as a wake-up call, mobilizing in bigger numbers for future games? Or does this disparity grow even larger, with Clark continuing to rack up eye-popping demand, while Reese's brand languishes in comparison? Time will tell, but the early indicators are hard to ignore. One player is changing the game's financial calculus, and the other is currently stuck on the sidelines of that economic revolution. In the meantime, the broader sports world looks on, fascinated by the phenomenon. Women's basketball is experiencing a renaissance of attention, and it's not just longtime supporters who are tuning in. Casual fans are noticing something new and exciting, seeing highlight packages circulated on social media, and they want to be part of the wave. That wave, however, appears almost entirely driven by Clark's presence, at least for now. The free market doesn't lie. You can see the results in real time. Ticket sales soared in Iowa, crashed websites, and ignited a frenzy of resales at astronomical prices. Across the country, in a similar scenario, it was crickets and empty seats. We mustn't forget that the rookies, too, are only at the start of their professional journeys. Many storied players had rocky beginnings in terms of public support or ticket draws, only to evolve into megastars. Could Reese bounce back with a strong WNBA season, proving that she can dominate at the pro level in a way that captivates fans? Certainly, but at this very moment, the scoreboard stands at 1-0 in Clark's favor, and it's a lopsided victory. Fans are merciless in how they hold on to first impressions, especially in the era of social media, where every misstep or underwhelming performance is magnified 1,000-fold. If Reese wants to shake off this reputational blow, she'll need to deliver consistently high-impact moments that remind people why she was a top draft pick in the first place. Fans close to Reese might say it's unfair to compare her to a player with a significantly different style. But the fans themselves made that comparison the moment these games were scheduled back-to-back, featuring the same Brazilian national team. Throw in the long, simmering storyline that Reese has publicly positioned herself as Clark's rival, and you create a scenario where the hype demands a direct showdown of results. And that's exactly what we got. One side soared, the other sputtered. That's not a narrative the league can easily bury or spin. Still, the embarrassment for Reese and the Chicago Sky this preseason can't be understated. You don't want to announce a big homecoming/ticket prices to near nothing, and then endure widespread mockery when seats remain available days later. It's the sort of PR nightmare that demands a quick pivot. Publicly, they might emphasize that it's just a preseason game, or that the timing was challenging. Yet those excuses fall flat when the competition across the country sold out in minutes under identical circumstances. The contrast is so glaring that it risks overshadowing any positive spin. Perhaps in the future, the Chicago Sky will coordinate a different kind of event or schedule more carefully, but for now, the comparisons are out there, and they're brutal. For the league, the question becomes, how do they harness the Clark mania while still building up other players into legitimate draws? Some worry that putting all eggs in one basket is risky. If Clark becomes injured or loses form, the WNBA could see a catastrophic dip in attendance. Others argue that's precisely how star-driven leagues function. Ride the wave of your biggest attraction, then hope momentum carries over to other players. It's the same formula the NBA used with Jordan, building up the league's overall profile as new stars emerge to fill the vacuum post-retirement. Perhaps the WNBA is on a similar path. And we're witnessing that early phase where one transcendent figure draws mainstream interest until everyone else catches up. One angle that seldom gets discussed is how promotions worked behind the scenes. The Iowa event had the advantage of the university's robust ticketing database, which includes fans who religiously attended Clark's college games. Donors and season ticket holders got first dibs, and it's no surprise that they flocked to support their hero. Meanwhile, LSU's promotional push for Reese might not have been as laser-focused, or perhaps the fan base just wasn't convinced that an exhibition game was worth the trek. Either way, the bottom line remains. One soared, the other flopped. Some fans questioned the authenticity of those rumored sky-high resale tickets for Clark's game. Could it be scalpers trying to manipulate the market? Or did someone genuinely think they'd get tens of thousands of dollars for a single seat? Even if many of those listings were stunts, the real sales figures proved how eager people were to attend. Resale sites showed actual transactions in the high hundreds, even crossing into four-digit territory for certain sections. You might have to comb through receipts to confirm each final price, but the sheer volume of people clamoring to buy is the real story. Compare that to the near silence around Reese's event, and the disparity becomes impossible to ignore. This tension between what's buzzed about online and what drives in-person attendance has always fascinated sports marketers. Social media conversations can give a distorted picture of popularity. Likes, retweets, and comments don't always convert to paid attendance. When an athlete like Reese stirs up conversation, it's easy to assume that translates into butts and seats. But as we now see, real star power requires more than just a viral moment. It takes consistent on-court excellence that fans can't wait to see live. Clark's game is tailor-made for that brand of hype, and she delivers in real time, giving the audience a sense of witnessing sports history in the making. It's also worth noting that by the end of her college career, Clark had become not just a local idol, but a national phenomenon. She graced countless highlight reels, made talk show appearances, and became the face of multiple campaigns. Her journey to the WNBA felt like a coronation of sorts, with fans across the country waiting to see if her skills could translate at the pro level. So far, they have. She's already racking up big numbers and continuing to dazzle with the same fearless approach. Meanwhile, Reese's storyline, though not lacking in achievements, seemed more overshadowed by controversies and debates about sportsmanship. That might interest the casual observer, but it hasn't triggered a wave of fans rushing to buy tickets. Observers also highlight the significance of a direct head-to-head scenario. What if Clark's Fever faced Reese's Sky in a neutral venue that seats over 20,000 fans? Would it still be a lopsided ticket war, or would fans finally get that marquee matchup? Perhaps that's where the rivalry truly decides itself, in direct competition, with each side tested in a single event. Until that happens, we're dealing with smaller data points: exhibition games, regular season matchups, personal brand metrics. But those small data points are painting a vivid picture of who truly captures mass attention. Then there's the question of longevity. Will Clark's star power remain strong over multiple WNBA seasons? Or is this a honeymoon phase? Will Reese eventually find her stride and become a major draw, perhaps after building more consistent on-court dominance? Right now, everything hinges on immediate impressions. The league is starved for momentum, especially after years of middling attendance. Clark's presence seems to be injecting fresh life. But if fans don't see other players stepping up, they might focus solely on Indiana Fever games, ignoring the rest of the league. The result could be a top-heavy WNBA, where one team commands sellouts and other squads scramble for half-filled arenas. That's not the balanced growth the league offices have been hoping for. The tipping point may be the shock factor that Clark brings with her skill set. She's known for drilling shots from distances that look impossible, sometimes near half court. She whips passes through traffic that appear to bend around defenders. At any given moment, she might erupt for a 40-point triple-double. Fans crave that kind of excitement, and the mania surrounding her suggests they're willing to open their wallets for the privilege of witnessing it in person. By contrast, Reese's approach, while effective, hasn't established the same level of spectacle. Coaches and analysts can appreciate her rebounding and inside scoring, but mainstream fans seem more drawn to a guard who can pull up from practically anywhere and thread the needle on cross-court assists.